Yeah, definitely. You gave a lot of gems in this video. It's really insightful and inspiring. Hi guys, it's your girl Aleesha here, and welcome to another episode of Talking with Aleesha, a series where I talk to extraordinary women. The purpose of the series is to just showcase women in a more diverse and authentic light. I feel like in day-to-day media, we don't really see women in such a diverse way, so that's the whole aim of this. And today I have Antonella. So Antonella is actually a computer science student, and why I wanted to have her today is I actually follow her on social media, and she's I showed her this just now. You're really inspiring with the way you do things. First of all, you're a woman in tech, which is amazing, but on top of that, you have so many cool passions as well. Like, you love your plants, you love your yoga, you love your budgies, so you have loads of cool things going on. You love your fitness, so it's good to see a woman in tech in such a well-rounded way as well, because when we usually see women in tech, it's they're meant to be really geeky or they're this and that. So thank you so much for being here today.
Hi Aleesha, thank you so much for having me.
It's okay, it's my pleasure. So my first question is, how did you get into computer science? What was your journey like? Was it an easy journey? Was it straightforward, something that you always wanted to do, or was it something that you kind of learned along the way?
Yeah, so definitely it wasn't straightforward at all. I actually started in fashion design when I got right out of school.
No way, I
And
wouldn't have thought
I
that.
so it also got a bit too heavy at one point, and I figured I'm gonna switch into something else. But that was a huge passion of mine, and that's what introduced me actually to computer science, to programming, trying to work on my own blogs and my own websites.
Yeah.
I started, of course, tinkering a little with HTML and CSS. And then my brother actually started studying computer science, and he started sending me stuff, and I was already intrigued enough to kind of be receptive to his links and
Yeah.
even conversations about it. And I slowly made the jump onto computer science, and I haven't looked back.
Wow, I did not know that about you. That's crazy. So, how did you even make the jump? That is something scary, because I know, especially like, if for me personally, if I was in something, I'd be like, I've already spent so many years on it, or you've already spent so much time and so much effort. It's kind of scary starting something new and starting over. So how did you first of all make that jump, and how did you know it was the right path to go to? And it's completely different things. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising to everyone I tell, and even to me sometimes. I don't really see the thread sometimes of how I fell into it. But I would say, first of all, it had a lot to do with my journey into introspection when I started paying more attention to myself and what I wanted, what I needed out of a job, all these things. It kind of started to align more with programming in a very strange sense, because, for example, I used to do illustrations too. So I did freelance illustration for a while, and I would draw very, very detailed drawings. So I had the creative side, but I also would spend hours and hours on, say, a face and trying to get the features right and all of this. And it was kind of a tumultuous emotional experience too, and some days I would be super inspired and excited, and other days I couldn't see how I would make a living out of it. So I think the biggest reason why I switched, and what made it easy to switch, was that I started learning about myself and paying attention to what I needed from a career and what made me feel fulfilled. So when I found programming, I was able to see that it contained both aspects that I really liked: the creative side and making something out of nothing and spending hours with yourself and an idea, and the technical side and pushing yourself to learn something technically and make it work well. And it just kind of happened.
That's
And it felt right. That was the other thing.
Yeah, it felt right. Yeah, you owe your brother a lot then to get introduced to computer science.
Cut.
Yeah. So you made a lot of interesting points that I actually have. First of all, knowing yourself. It's crazy how many people just go with the flow. So it's I feel like a big reason why is because in society we're meant to do things at a certain age and a certain time, and we have to make decisions quick. So when you're applying for like college applications, it's like a deadline. You don't really have time to know yourself, maybe know your passions, and a lot of people rush into different things. What advice would you give to someone that maybe hasn't found their passion, and how can you what are some steps to actually know yourself, because even that's a big and scary thing, like how do you really know yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a loaded question there.
Yeah, it is.
But first of all, I would say don't feel ashamed or feel like you're wasting time trying things out. So if you one day think, okay, I want to have my own business, don't think of it as I am tied to this for the rest of my life and I will be a failure if I don't stick with it through. Every single thing like I mentioned, I've dabbled in so many different things, but just because I'm not doing them still right now doesn't mean that it was a failure. It's you learn from all of it. You learn about yourself mostly from every single thing that you take up. So don't fall into that. That's something that bothers me a lot, that people see themselves as failures because they didn't stick to one thing. You're a human being, you're meant to change, you're meant to evolve, you're meant to try things out. How are we supposed to know right out of high school what we want to do if we've never tried any of it? So I would say that just be creative and explore, and anything that kind of piques your interest, just go for it and do it for as long as you feel like it. You'll definitely learn something about yourself from that. Secondly, I would say if you're someone who's coming right out of high school, something I did was doing my prerequisites first. So anything general education, that kind of stuff, it gives you a little bit more time to figure out what you truly want and pick up classes just randomly to learn. I took introduction to criminology, I believe it was, and it was so interesting. And I found ways where technology could even fit into that field. So it starts giving you new ideas. And just don't fall for what society says. I know it's hard to tune it out, but I myself know all of that. But just try to follow what you feel is right for you. And one last thing, which I have dealt with a lot, because let's say this, I am 26 and I'm still pursuing a bachelor's in computer science now. So time means nothing. The age that you start doing something means absolutely nothing. And it's all just a part of your journey and your story. And it just makes you more interesting.
Thank you for sharing all of that and your personal experiences as well. And I couldn't agree with you more. I've had a kind of similar journey. I did chemical engineering, but I found out throughout my course that I'm so much more passionate about other things as well as engineering. And it's another thing that follows on from your point. You don't even have to be so passionate about one thing either. You can have multiple passions, you can do multiple things, and it's not always a straight path to finding it, and there's not a correct way to finding it either. And that's something I myself have learned as well, where I'm just like, oh, am I making the most use of my degree if I delve into other things, or is it worthwhile? Or so to anyone even like finding jobs or careers, just again, it's not a waste. Whatever you did, you learned your skills from it, and it's just literally finding your way through it all. And another good point that you made was that a lot of people don't see the creative side in technology, in coding, in engineering. That's one thing that really gets overlooked, I feel like. It's because it seems like it's really technical on the surface. When looking at programming and coding, you wouldn't see it as a creative subject. A lot of times people say, you don't really need the creative side, but I feel like a big mixture of the creative side and the technical side, as you said, is so necessary. So how do you balance the two, and how do you keep creative in tech and programming when you're programming and stuff?
Mhm. Well, something I like to do is whenever I'm learning a new language or trying to apply a language to some idea, is I'll try my best to get as clear an idea of the basics and then brainstorm what could this be useful for, or see other people and how they've applied it, and try to dump every single idea that I could have with those two and explore them. Like it's the same theme, just exploring and trying to find that spark, basically.
Yeah, that's good. And so I discovered you from you showcasing all your, coding and your life and your journey online, which is really awesome. Everyone should follow you. I'll put the link of your Instagram handle. So how did it get started? Just showcasing your stuff online. Was it something that you did not really thinking about it, or how did it even start?
Yeah, I never ever saw myself as someone who would be sharing her life online and her journey. I've always, for example, Instagram, I've always had a private account for my
Yeah.
friends, and that's it. But even for my personal account, I used to use it more of as a digital journal sort of thing, and
Yeah.
self-expressive, and trying to connect more with people.
Hmm.
And from there, it kind of trickled into something more public. And the moment that happened was I had started an account for like study inspiration, because I've been working on taking really really neat notes,
Oh,
which
okay.
is something I also get comments on constantly on my Instagram. It's like, how do you write like this? It looks like a printer. So
It
I
probably comes
started.
from like your drawing side as well, your neat handwriting.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had just this tiny little public account where I was posting my notes and following other people, because I I was at a time where I needed to focus 100% on studying, and I figured whatever works for me, if it's looking at cute notes, I'll go for it. And there I found the programming community, and I started really enjoying what I was getting from them, the inspiration of seeing their own journeys, and I started sharing my own coding stuff, and then it just took off from there. And
No, it's
I
really
found
fun.
it very fulfilling to be a part of the community. That's really what
Yeah.
had me stick around, for sure.
Yeah, definitely with the community. It's such a it's like there's other people like you, that kind of thing. And if you're struggling with something, or probably for you, if you're struggling with a programming problem, or you see all these people that have done so much stuff, so it is really inspiring. And it's something that you definitely should keep on doing it. I love your profile, it's so cool. So during your experience as a computer science student, do you think, have you faced any barriers as a woman, or do you feel like you've had experiences just because you are a woman, or has your experience been pretty neutral in that regard?
Okay, yeah, so that's an interesting question for me, because the place that I am right now, I haven't really gone into the field yet. I'm only a
Yeah, you're a
student,
student. Yeah,
so I haven't been exposed to
working
too
life. Yeah,
of
yeah.
the actual environment. But within school, I have found that the biggest hurdle regarding bias has actually been my own, because the classes that I've taken, every professor has been very welcoming. I have had other women in the class, even in my study groups, and other classmates, male classmates. They are all super encouraging. We're the same,
Yeah.
and even I started attending meetings for the programming club at my school, and it's the most funny thing, because this is a pedestal that I will fall very high from, but they started calling me genius. I'm like, what? It's the second meeting, and that's my nickname now from a couple
That's
of
so
guys.
cool.
I was like, Please don't do that because a lot of pressure to live up to.
Genius. You can't get higher than genius. That's like the perfect nickname. If you has to have a nickname, that's a pretty good one. That's up there with all the nicknames.
Yeah. But
No,
I
that's cool. Yeah. No, that is really awesome that, you're in an environment where, you can thrive and you can grow. And it's interesting to see how, so different experiences with different women. So some women, feel really accepted, really included, and it just depends on all the any environment that they're in.
exactly.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you saying that your family's from Argentina.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. How's that experience been like? Do you find having a culture clash because you're from the States? You live in the States.
Yeah, I've been,
Yeah. So do you find how's that been? Have you seen a culture? Yeah, as I said before, have you seen a culture clash, or is it pretty seamless, or do you have any? Because it's a different country that your family, have
yeah.
originated from.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Argentina
Okay.
until I was 21, 22.
Oh,
So I
okay.
moved pretty recently.
Mhm.
But the caveat here is that I am in Florida, so it's pretty much an extended Latin America and just a whole melting pot of different
Yeah,
cultures.
different
For
cultures.
example, my best friends at work are from Bangladesh, and we found so many similarities within such distant cultures
Mhm.
that it's been eye-opening for me to
That's
see just how
awesome.
similar we are, even when we talk about our moms. Thing about Hispanic moms and Latina
Yeah.
moms, and their mom is pretty much the same. So it's just been so interesting
Yeah.
to how how many things in common we have with different cultures and
Mhm.
different nationalities.
Yeah, and looking at the similarities rather than the differences, that is so
And
important.
learning from too, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've being friends with these girls, for example, has opened my eyes so much about the struggles that women over in Bangladesh face,
Mhm.
and even just political uprisings and all these things that I wasn't aware of. But for people who, for example, for me, I am a white woman. I have certain privileges. I'm not going to deny that at all. I have been born with privileges of my own. And it is important for people like me and others who have certain privileges to educate themselves on the
Mhm.
struggles that other people face. Because as long as one person is struggling in this world, we should all be taking it personally, you
Yeah.
know?
No, definitely. That's such a good way of looking at it. And sometimes, we don't realize what people are going through. Is even people around us. Especially because if they're from all around the world, you don't know, what their families back home might be facing or what they might be facing in their own homes. And, when they're going to work, it might be a completely different experience, from you. And, that's the beauty of the world as well. It's so different, it's so diverse. But no, that's a really, really good and, positive way of looking at it. One other thing I really wanted to talk about was you're really big on, constantly improving, something that I feel like every single person, should do and aim for, just really constantly pushing yourself and, just being the best version of yourself. A good thing that you did create that I downloaded as well was a habit tracker as well, which I've gone into the habit of doing. So um, it's where I have a couple of habits and then I started to add a couple more when I've established it, and it's good to try out different things. And one cool thing that you did was waking up I don't know what time it was, it's some crazy time. Yeah. Yeah. It was waking up at 5 a.m. and I was just like, whoa, this girl is like really actually, she's like on it with her 5 a.m. wake up. So that was really inspiring. Are there any habits that you kind of struggled with keeping?
Yes, there's plenty of the one I've struggled with the most lately is big chunks of focus time. I feel like with all the distractions we have in the world, especially our phones, it's right here, social media, all these things, we have conditioned our own brains to look for instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
So if we suddenly get bored, we're not looking around anymore. We just go to the quick fix.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been trying to work on lately. Yeah, and just trying to be more mindful.
Yeah,
It's been
definitely.
difficult these days, but trying to be more present and mindful for sure.
And what are your tips on actually creating habits? Like, if someone wants to really, kind of make the most out of their day, how do you kind of get started?
So, first of all, I would say don't overwhelm yourself with 5 or 6 different habits.
Yeah.
Start small with one and build up from that. And something else that I've read about is if you want to get rid of one habit, that a bad habit that you
Yeah.
don't want it to stick around anymore, replace that with a different one. So you'll have a cue to kind of trigger the new habit. Another thing would be tracking it. That's a very, very good tip
Yeah.
to follow, because I believe it's what, 20 people say different numbers,
Yeah,
21
21
days.
days. That's what
I've
I
heard
think as
even
well.
50 days to rewire your brain. So being consistent every single day, and don't get discouraged when you miss a day. It's happened to me so many times that I'll miss one day and then it feels like the end of the world. Oh no, I've ruined everything. You haven't ruined anything. You just
Yeah,
keep going.
that's how
That's
I
how.
feel as well. I'm like, oh, I've been good for 10 days. Oh, I've missed this one day. And I'm just like, those 10 days are a waste now. What's the point? I was meant to do it for 21 days. So, no, I'm the same. Keeping it. Yeah, you need to just push through. If you slip up one day, it's fine. Yeah, that's one thing I feel like a lot of people are. They're really hard on themselves. When they slip up or do something, that's definitely the case for me, and I feel like so many people. So, yeah, I feel like don't be too hard on yourself, especially when you're trying to improve. The fact that people are trying to improve, I feel like that's really good as well, because you know that there's some parts of your aspects of your life that you can maximize and you can make the most of them. So definitely that. And are there any good books that you're reading that you have read that you would recommend that you have to read this book?
Yeah, there's actually two. There was one, I hope I remember it. I didn't prepare, but there was an excellent book that completely changed my view on the way the brain works. Um,
I need to know this book. You have to remember.
Let me see. I'll pick up my phone just to see the title. Um, oh my God, I wish I had prepared. Well, the second. Let's go to the second one first. That one's fresh. The second one is The Miracle Morning. It's a tiny little book,
Okay.
but I recommend it to everyone because it just completely changed the way that I see mornings, the way that I wake up and do certain things that set me up for the best day possible. It sounds so cheesy, but believe me, just read it. Just everyone watching this, just read The Miracle Morning and apply it, and it's pretty magical.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
oh my goodness, the other one, I believe it was called Habits of a Happy Brain, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look it up quickly. It's called Habits of a Happy Brain. Retrain your brain to boost your serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphin levels. The title itself doesn't do it justice, I believe, because it almost sounds kind of wishy-washy,
Yeah, it does.
like happy brains, but it's very technical, it's very scientific, and I learned so much from it. And I took a lot of information that I applied into my own habit routines and habit training. So definitely recommend that one. I actually should read that one again
Yeah,
soon.
no, I'm actually excited now. I probably will definitely buy it. And what do you think? What do you think it means to have a meaningful life? What do you reckon? That's a loaded question as well, but
For me, I first of all, I believe for everyone it can mean something different.
definitely.
But for me, what that means is to first of all be content and at peace with yourself, with who you are, to do something that you love, to love people and be loved back, and to not take things so seriously. That's something that I'm working on heavily right now. And to understand that as cheesy as that sounds, life is a gift, and everything that we have to do, we get to do.
Yeah.
So being able to harness a perspective on life that follows that path of today I get to work out, today I get to go to work, and being excited for the little things, I believe that that is the ultimate success.
No, that's really beautiful, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, life's you don't realize time goes really quick as well, and before you know it, so many years go. So definitely the appreciating the little stuff, and getting excited over the little things as well is so important. I've realized as well. And also, what you do is really cool. I saw on your Instagram. I think you volunteer at this children's coding club program thing. That's so awesome. Well, how did that start, and why do you think it's so important for younger children to get exposed to coding and that sort of thing?
Right. Okay. So first of all, the way it started was I went to a conference in Boston at Harvard earlier this year.
Yeah.
It's called Code Women in Engineering Who Code. And there was this speaker who was talking about how important it is to be of service to others. And that's something that I've carried within me for many years too. I have this drive, this kind of, it's almost like a nagging feeling, like I want to do something of value for others, but I can never really find what's the most impactful thing I could be doing. So it kind of almost tears at me sometimes. But this woman was actually teaching inmates in prisons how to code. And she was saying how you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but just find something that you're passionate about that you can do for others. And then when I came back home after that conference, that stuck with me for a few weeks. And I went to this other, I believe it was a meetup or some sort of programming and coding event. And this place, Logi School, had a stand there. And I was just looking for either internships or places where I could get involved, just to get more involved in the programming community. And it really spoke to me. I hadn't seen any other place that was doing something like this at that point, teaching kids how to program and make video games and that kind of stuff. And it hit me. It was kind of like a moment of revelation almost. Like, this is where I should go to do what I was trying to find an outlet for. So I started volunteering every Saturday a few months ago, and the kids have been wonderful. You build these beautiful relationships with kids who are truly excited to learn something new. Mm-hmm. And the most rewarding part is actually when there's kids that get signed up because their parents want them to learn how to code, because they're like, the future is coding, my kid is into Microsoft, and the kid could not care less. And then they start seeing how it works and how they are making this video game, and their eyes light up and suddenly they're excited. So that's been the best part, honestly.
That's so awesome. And the second part was how important do you think is having these kind of programs for younger children?
True. Yes. So I don't think every single person should code, but I do believe that they should have an understanding of how it works and to try to see if they enjoy it. Some people, it's just not for them, and they're more people oriented and they like the different things, basically. So, but for kids, I think it's so important for them to learn how to code, because first of all, it gives them an understanding of how the future is going to be like. It gives them a stake on it. Mm-hmm. Before, I guess, I'm not sure how many years ago, but before this whole diversity in tech movement began, it was just a certain demographic of people that were in control of creating technology. Mm-hmm. Now, if more kids start getting access to it early on, they can build this curiosity, they can start learning way earlier on, and they can have their own place in technology where they can build things that accommodate to people like them. For example, if there's anyone with disabilities that starts getting into technology, they can build things that can accommodate for other people with disabilities where maybe someone like me wouldn't really understand what they need.
Especially because coding and technology is such an integral part of our day-to-day lives. I feel like at least they need the exposure, even if they don't want to go to it. These kind of like hands-on programs, like the one that you were volunteering at with the video games, is really important. I feel like because it gives another insight to what it's about. Because again, with the tech industry, I guess it's changing now, but as you said, it was for one demographic, and it was kind of like, oh, it's boring, or it's nerdy, or it's not creative, or it's not fun. So, you need to break down those barriers at a younger age and at least make them open and aware that it's an option. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, it's really cool. And my last question is that, do you have any what are your future plans and goals? Do you know what kind of career you want to go into, or do you know what kind of things that you want to do? Is it all like out in the open right now?
Well, my ideal would be to work remotely and just get to have that kind of freedom to work from anywhere
Yeah.
and be able to connect with others. So something that combines those two, building something meaningful and that can be of service to others. I feel like that would really resonate with
Yeah.
my being.
That's awesome. That sounds awesome. And hopefully the way you're going, you will achieve your dreams. It's really good how you have those checklists that you do, and you're always on top of it, and it's good that it's good just to see you as a person living your day-to-day life. I feel like it's really inspiring, and it's really cool. So thank you so much for being here. Do you have anything to add or anything else to say before we leave?
Just that I'm really grateful for you reaching out, and I hope that anyone who watches this interview will get inspired to at least take a peek at what it's like. Maybe they'll find something that they're passionate about there.
Yeah, definitely. You gave a lot of gems in this video. It's really insightful and inspiring. So
Hope there's some value for everyone who watches.
definitely, there definitely is.